What is up, everybody? We do not have Jim today, but that's okay because me and Seth are gonna be here. But yeah, we're not gonna have as long a show, but we'll still have a show, of course. But yeah, Seth, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. How about yourself? Just want to do a quick shout out to Jim in case he's listening. Get well soon. And to everyone that's listening, please don't mind the barking dog in the background. He won't bite you. I promise.
All right, yeah, for sure. All right, thanks everyone for coming in. All right, let's get this kicked off right now. We're gonna talk a little bit. Gary Bettman had a press conference recently ish, and he talked about some things, and we're gonna talk about some of the things he talked about in that press conference. We're gonna start off with this. What are your thoughts on the NHL's ability to organize the playoffs without any positive tests? All right, Seth, you can go ahead and get us kickstarted with this.
Well, obviously, I did listen to the whole press conference. From my recollection, Batman was, sounds like, you know, aside from how anyone feels about Gary Bettman personally, it does seem like in terms of being able to organize the playoffs after this pause during the pandemic and being able to get the host cities Edmonton and Toronto and get everyone in place and basically get this whole thing off without any positive test is a credit to, like he said, everyone involved, from the top to the bottom. So, regardless to my feelings about there being too many teams in the playoffs, which he admitted that this is not going to be a permanent thing. It's going to be back to 16 teams. Aside from how I feel about that, I feel like it was, he did a good job of organizing everything so that we could have a playoff and have the Stanley Cup awarding. So in terms of from that standpoint, everyone involved did a great job.
Oh, for sure. And I think a lot of people were talking about. This isn't necessarily related to the question, but like a lot of people were talking like, oh, this year's championship is going to have an asterisk. I'm going to have to go with a hard disagree. I mean, teams coming back, fighting down, like they didn't win their like. I think one team came back from a 3-1 deficit and won, but multiple teams tied their series after getting down 3-1, and even Betten pointed that out. But like, no, it's impressive the way this has all been organized. Everybody deserves credit. Bettman took his credit, and he was more than happy to make it known that he did a good job. I felt, but he wasn't. He wasn't void of giving everybody else the credit that they deserve to make this all happen. And like I said, it's not like this has been just some crappy performance from everybody. It's been good hockey for the most part. Like a 5 overtime game. Looks like the Lightning are on the verge of getting it done, but I guess that's one other interesting thing here is that teams are coming back teams have been able to come back from 3-1 a little bit easier. I think that not have the lack of home ice has. I don't know if this makes sense, but I don't know if you'll agree. But like, I think the lack of home ice has really even made things extremely interesting in the way you can or can't even up the series. I guess I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. You want to go ahead and go
But
on to the next?
I do see where you're coming from. It basically gives it a feel of like the NCAA tournament with the basically the whole sites, the neutral sites. So I understand you there from that standpoint. You don't have like necessarily that home ice feel, and then also you don't have the fans in the crowd. So I definitely see where you're coming from. Um, but in terms of an asterisk, yes, you will have to speak for yourself. I do consider this a big old asterisk because, like, my view from before that there's no way in hell there should have been 24 teams. That's too many. It's like you take I can understand if there's like maybe considering the circumstances, if you added 2 more teams to make it 18 teams to make it fair for the couple teams that might would have missed out on playoffs. But 24 teams, that's too many. It's like 24 out of 31. So only 7 teams missed in the playoffs. So it's like like Bettman points to a whole bunch of bad teams and are like, you get a playoff spot. You get a playoff spot like Oprah. You get a playoff spot. So you don't have to bitch and complain about not getting one because of this whole unusual season. You get a playoff spot. And then the way the whole draft lottery was conducted, which if Jim was here, he would be probably pitching a bigger fit than me about how the Red Wings were screwed with the 4th pick, despite having the worst record. How a team that was in the playoffs has a chance of winning the draft lottery. So yeah, there's my little rant.
Time out. Can I give you a little bit of pushback? I would partially agree about the I agree. 24 teams is way too many. I don't think that should that should not happen. Like that's hope that I don't envision that happening next year. But
he said he won't. That's not going to be permanent.
Yeah,
thank God.
But at the same time, it's not like one of those bottom feeding playoff teams made it to the stand. The teams that were supposed to make it all the way to the finals still made it to the finals. The 24 teams didn't really. The other teams had pretty much no effect on how far certain teams advanced. Do you feel me? Or
it's still correct. Should have been, if you're going to add some more teams, could have been 18, maybe even 20, but not 24. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying.
Yeah, but as far as having an asterisk, like it didn't. It's the teams that are supposed to be in the Cup final are there. Like it didn't affect like the Penguins. They deserved to lose, honestly. Like we had both 5 seeds go out. Those teams deserved to lose. They took. I don't know what happened with them, but the teams that made it as far as they did deserved to be there, and they were supposed to be there. So I guess that's why I don't agree that the champion has an asterisk. Like it may have affected the earlier rounds, but once you get to the later rounds, that stuff really doesn't matter. That stuff didn't matter at all. Teams that were supposed to make it made it. But aside from that, do you want to go on real fast, or do you think is there anything else you want to?
Next question.
Yeah. All right. Good job. All right.
Shout out to Numis.
Yeah, Nomis, what's up, my man? What's up, man? Here, let's go to this. Let's go to that one first. I'll just let you take this, Seth. What are your thoughts on the players using their platform to promote social justice?
Well, first off, shout out to Detroit Drew.
Yeah.
Well, I just see this as the way I see this as being interesting how the NHL is now evolving because, it's kind of like that big elephant in the room to where hockey is perceived as the sport that only white people play and only white people are supposed to enjoy. But you do see more people of color playing the sport now. And you do see people of color that enjoy watching hockey. We're prime examples. So I know folks can't actually see you right now, but they would have seen you for a few shows a few weeks ago, but they can see my picture. So, they can clearly see that I'm a black person. And yes, I do enjoy hockey. And there's quite a few of us actually in the Detroit area that enjoy watching hockey. But I guess I like the fact that hockey is, trying to be more inclusive, even to Trevor Thompson saying at the end of Red Wing broadcast or segment saying, remember, hockey is for everyone. So it's good to see the league embracing players using their platform to promote social justice, diversity in hockey. Whereas not too long ago, there's a player who was basically staunchly against the idea of any other players kneeling for the national anthem, which, I feel like with everything that's going on, the best thing that we can all do is try to understand each other instead of instantly villainizing each other just because we disagree with something. And just take instead of just calling someone an idiot or a moron because they disagree with you, ask them why they think that way. Take the time to understand the other position and you know just like I said, try to understand each other. So I feel like the league is trying to address that now with certain players being allowed to use their platform. So yeah, so I don't mean to sound all preachy, but yes, that's my take.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's go ahead and go on to this one real quickly now. Not real quickly. We're gonna take a Does Batman's handling of the league during the pandemic change your view of him as commissioner and why? Well, I guess I'll take this one really quickly. I think Batman gets more hate than he deserves personally. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems is he's probably a little bit too much of a puppet to the owners. Like he does what the owners want. Like let's make no mistake right there, but I think he gets more hate than he necessarily deserves because of what the owners want. Like there's like Jim taught like yeah, I think he gets more hate than he deserves, but this doesn't really change my opinion on him. I guess it enhances it a little more. I mean, I'm more indifferent about Batman, but I think Batman's done a good like the way this whole thing's been organized. It's been real good. It's been smooth sailing. Like this whole entire playoffs has been as smooth of sailing as you could ask for. So, and with the under difficult circumstances nonetheless. But yeah, I think he's done a really solid job here. I mean, I don't think he's been terrible throughout the years, but in this particular year, this has been his time to shine, and I think he has shined. But Seth, I know you and Jim definitely don't feel the same way that I feel. But all right,
Well,
Jim, go ahead.
even though I lean closer to how Jim feels, I'm still basically in the middle. Jim basically hates Batman with a passion because he blames him for taking fighting out of the game. I'm not willing to go that far. I feel like a lot of that has to do with the way the game has evolved, you know. But make no mistake, every commissioner to some degree is a puppet to the owners. And I feel like Bettman's been more of a puppet for the owners than, say, Roger Goodell, because I think I've mentioned this before. With Goodell, even though he was obviously expressing the owners' opinions during the 2011 lockout, you still had the sense that that his first priority above everything else was to get a deal done so football could be played. You didn't get that sense with Bettman in 2004, if you're old enough to remember.
Yeah.
Three different times in Bettman's tenure, there have been lockouts. 3 times. You can't say that for any other commissioner. 3 times. And one of those times, a whole season got canceled. So that you can't argue against that. And then
Actually,
there are a lot of
Seth, can I ask you a question really fast? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can I ask you a question about the first 2 lockouts real fast? You know, I've never fully understood lockouts all the way. But like with the first 2, the biggest thing was the salary cap, right? Like that was one of the biggest things that led to these lockouts was the
well,
salary
not so
cap,
much the
right?
first one, but the second one definitely the salary cap. They want that salary cap, and there's, I guess, too much disparity between the big market and small market teams. A lot more teams are losing money. There are a handful of teams that were actually opposed to a salary cap, and the Red Wings were one of them because they were one of the main beneficiaries, being able to sign Brett Hall, Luke Robitaille just a couple years earlier, and then Curtis Joseph the year after that. So yeah.
All right.
But
Well, yeah, you can finish what you were saying now. Sorry.
yeah. So, but yeah, 3 times you've had lockouts. So, and then also, a lot of people are mad to this day about Bettman okaying teams moving out of Canada, and there are people, hockey purists, that are still to this day upset about him changing the names of the divisions and conferences. From the North, like the North Division to the Central Division. Me, I'm not all that hung up on that. I feel like for someone like me, it makes more sense for the lukewarm fans, because if you're not a hockey purist, you'll be like, okay, what the hell's the North Division? What's the Slack Division? Like, what are these the names of these divisions? So, I guess there's good and bad with Bettman, and this doesn't really change my opinion of him this much from that standpoint. But I do feel like this did show that he was very good at being able to organize things and get the season back going. So shout out to 313 JMO.
Oh yeah, shout out to 313 JMO. He just hit 1,000K, so congrats to him. Yeah, I can't wait to give you a super chat, my man. But yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you hit on a lot of good points. I mean, yeah, the 3 lockouts probably aren't beautiful. I mean, I also think he partially. I don't think he gets. I think he gets blamed. I mean, he deserves his blame, but I don't think he gets. He gets more than he deserves for the lockout. Like the owner. What is? Let's be honest. All the lockouts. What do they all boil down to? Like, what's the root of all of it?
Money.
Yeah, exactly. It all roots down to money. This, I mean, I was watching a video from the hockey guy, and he was like, "When was the last time the owners and players went on strike saying they want less money? We're not going on strike to go like the players aren't going on strike going like, oh, we need to make our jerseys cheaper so that kid up in the upper bowl can buy a jersey. That's not why we're going on strike. We're going on strike to get more money." That's what the root of all of it is. So I don't know. I guess, I mean, it's a tricky topic, and I don't get mad at them for it. I mean, to an extent, I'll get mad about it, but like, it all boils down to money. And you read my mind perfectly. It all boils down to money. And
I'm not mad either. My point is to get a deal, to be able to work out the disagreements a little bit better and get the deal done. With David Stern, now I guess I'll backtrack. With David Stern, I think in the NBA, he technically had 3 lockouts in his tenure, technically. But one of those lockouts was super duper short, like maybe a week long during the summer. The first one the year before that was during the summer for like maybe a couple weeks. It didn't affect the season at all. Both times it was taken care of. And then now the third time was the time where it really threatened the season. But so I'll really start counting that one because that was the first one to really affect the season. And then I think there's the next one. I think he was still commissioner. I don't think Adam Silver is commissioner yet, but they were able to get a 66 game season out of it. So, but still, with Bettman, he's the only one to lose the entire season due to a lockout. And I just feel like he should have done a better job of just finding common ground and getting a deal done instead of just sticking it to the players by any means necessary, even if it means the season. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I think the owners also. We've probably beat this. I'll just say one last thing. We've probably beat this to beat a dead horse at this point. But like I said, like he's the owners. Gary Bettman does what the owners want. He's negotiating for the owners. He's doing what the owners want out of them. So it's like, I don't know. It's tricky, I guess.
But you also have to balance. you also, sorry to cut you off, but
No, you're
you
good.
also have to balance that with the fans, because yes, the commission works for the owners, but also the commissioner also in a way serves the fans, and the owners ultimately have to answer to the fans whether they want to admit it or not, because the fans buy tickets, they watch the games, so they ultimately have to answer to the fans, just like politicians ultimately have to answer to voters, whether they want to admit it or not. So it's a balancing act, is all I'm saying. And I feel like Goodell has a better understanding of that balancing act. Even though he gets booed too during the draft, he's willing to have fun with it. Whereas Bettman, he gets all butthurt when he gets booed when the Stanley Cup is being issued. It's to the point now to where he tried to duck out of it by no longer being introduced onto the ice. He would already be in place, but the fans still boo him, and it's actually pretty downright hilarious how he tries to avoid getting booed.
Oh yeah.
Even if you don't watch the playoffs, if your team's not in it, it's watching that final game is worth it just to see Bettman getting booed.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I mean, I can't kill anything you're saying, and I'll very seldomly kill anything that anybody says because I just can't. Everybody makes good points. But you're right; it's a balancing act. Honestly, I think we can go ahead and move on to the next topic at this point. Honestly, let's see here. There you are. All right. Why do Red Wings fans hate Sidney Crosby so much? I mean, I don't like him because, in all honesty, like the Penguins are probably like one of my 2 or 3 least favorite teams. I don't have the same animosity for the Avalanche because I can barely, and I mean barely, remember the rivalry. But like, no, that cup loss, even though we won it the year before, that cup loss still hurt, dude. Like it took me like a couple years before I would even go back and even watch that game because it hurts so much. Losing that series hurts so much. But yeah, why do fans hate Sidney Crosby so much? Seth, you have a little bit more background on this than I do, I think. So I'm gonna give us some background onto this whole thing, into
All
this
right.
whole
Well,
topic.
let me tell you real quick, if you want to, in terms of the Red Wings Avalanche rivalry, we could probably do a whole show on the background on that by itself. So, but in terms of the Penguins, um, in terms of the Penguins as a whole, the hate for the Penguins, I would say definitely stems from the 2009 finals. In terms of why Red Wing fans hated Crosby, I will admit for up until maybe a couple years ago, it was actually a mystery to me as to why Wings fans hated him. I know people were bummed about the '09 Cup loss, and to me, I felt like the Wings choked in Game 7, and then Cronwall hit the crossbar bar towards the end, which would have tied it. I just figured people hated Crosby because they the way he was promoted is guys like a pretty boy, a great player, the next Gretzky, whereas he's not scoring 92 goals or 80 something goals like Gretzky or Lemieux did. Basically being overhyped, and the perception that people around the league have of him being a coward because the few times he gets in a fight, he pulls the collar and kind of chokes the guy instead of really punching the guy. But I found out that there's actually more to the story as to why Red Wing fans hated Crosby, because apparently during the post-series handshake, some of the Penguins were lollygagging, celebrating, and and the lines were forming, and Crosby, I guess, and a few other players were busy still celebrating and joined the line late. And I think it's been a while since I've seen the video, so I hope I hope I have this right. But something happened to where not all of the Crosby didn't shake hands with all of the Wings players, And from what I saw, I felt like it was a legitimate, honest mistake. Like, I don't think Crosby was really trying to slight anyone. It was just the timing of, he and his teammates celebrating. I don't think he was really trying to slight anyone, but the Wings players took it as a slight. I know Draper said something, and the Wings fans started chanting Crosby sucks at the Joe. So I guess it, built from there to where Wings fans just absolutely hate Sidney Crosby.
All right.
And there you go.
All right. Well, I mean, honestly, I think I agree. Like, I haven't watched. I didn't know any of this happened until like today. Honestly, no, I agree with you. It probably like I didn't watch the video, so I can't say. But it feels the way you described it. It definitely feels like it was just an honest mistake. Things happen. I don't think it's anything to get all that personal about. I really don't think it's anything worth getting that personal about, if that makes any sense.
I
But
think Wings fans were really sour about the team just losing Game 7, and Crosby was just an easy target. Personally, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess my other thing, like with here's the thing, like and it's always easy to hate. Oh, oops. No, it's always easy to hate the best player on your least favorite team. So that's kind of also why I might not like him the most. But here's the other thing. I hate teams that just where all these fans just come up out of nowhere. It was like, where was this just 4 years ago? You know what I'm saying? Like the Blackhawks and the Penguins, I feel are like the most egregious examples of their fan bases just coming absolutely out of nowhere. It's like, where were these people like just 1 or 2 years ago?
Well, you see, well, to be fair,
yeah, they won Stanley Cups. I think that's what you're getting at. I'm
sorry.
What
I'm saying is, in all fairness, because you were probably too young to remember this, the Penguins were a pretty popular team in the 90s with Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr. They were like on ESPN like once a week, it seemed like. They were one of ESPN's favorite teams to cover. The Penguins, the Flyers, the Rangers, the Avalanche. And you hardly ever saw the Red Wings, even though they were one of the league's most popular teams. But, you bring up the point, where were the fans years ago? I think for most teams, when teams get going to that dry spell to where they're really struggling, fan support drops down to some degree. Maybe not, the level, how far the drop is may vary from various teams, and even for different teams within the same city. Because, like, for instance, I feel like there's less fan support for the Pistons right now than there is for the Red Wings, and there's far less for either of those teams right now than the Lions. So, but I feel like, Jim could tell you that during their Dead Wings period, the Joe Louis Arena and the Olympic before that were probably half filled with fans. So that's basically human nature, to where when your team really struggles, you're going to be less interested. So obviously, like the diehard fans will still come and still watch, but a lot of the lukewarm, casual fans, they'll lose interest. So that's just human nature.
Well, I feel you to an extent, but like I just remember when I attended a Red Wings. I went to I think the Golden Knights were in their second year of existence. And I went to see the Golden Knights play the Red Wings in Vegas. Bro, I don't know, man. The Red Wings were pretty gutter trash that season, and you could almost feel the Red Wings fans just taking the arena over. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, there are exceptions. There are exceptions.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Well, I guess my point is that in the 90s, everyone was talking Red Wings all the time, whereas it's not so much the case now. But the Red Wings they do have a lot of tradition as an original six team, so they're still going to have fans all over. And you also have a lot of folks who move from Michigan to other places that keep cheering on their team, whether it's in Nevada or Arizona or Alaska. Because during my last 4 years in the Air Force, I was in Alaska, and the Wings, there are quite a few Wings fans up there. So,
wait, Seth, you there?
yeah.
Okay. I do agree with you though, like to an extent. I can agree with you to an extent about teams just have fan bases just pop up out and like you go for your team when they're playing good. Like you root, like that's when all the hype is, and that's honestly probably the way it should be. The good teams get the most attention, even locally. Your team's gonna get more attention when it's a good team than when it's not so much a good team. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. But as far as I get, but as far as Crosby's concerned, I'm sorry I got us off track a little bit, but you know, I have to go watch the video, so I should be clear about that. I have to go watch that video, but to see what happened. But the way it's being described, it just feels like an honest mistake, and I'm sure Crosby learned from it. Maybe I don't know if he did it in the next 2 times he won the Stanley Cup, but the way you described it just feels like an honest mistake, and hate him for something else, but probably not hate him for that, I guess. But yeah, do you want to go on, Seth, or do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm good. JMO, I would definitely recommend that you Google why do Red Wing fans hate Sidney Crosby, and that topic will probably come up about the 2009 post-game handshake. So hopefully you'll be able to find out more about it there, and you'll be able to find a YouTube video. There's, I think, at least one YouTube video out there that shows what happened. And in my honest view, it just looks like an honest mistake. But yeah, let's move on.
All right, you know what? We're gonna do this one because I think this is the one you care about the most, Seth. So we're gonna take this one real fast. So the M Live article you sent us in our chat, like it showed players. It showed us mock drafts having us take players from going all the way from Perfetti to Rossi to Raymond to Drysdale. It was all over the place, but I feel like the most common theme was Marco Rossi. So I guess which of those picks do you think is the right pick? I guess is what my question for you is.
Jim would really love this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember a lot of people were saying Rossi, which I know Jim really likes that guy, and some people were saying Perfetti too. So I had to do some research on Perfetti. We've talked a lot about Rossi here. To me, both players seem overall very similar in a lot of ways, to where they're both, 5'10", which, no matter how big you are, if you can play, you can play. Darren Fleer was 5'6", for crying out loud, and was one of the best wingers of his era during the 90s. So if you can play, you can play. So they're both, very skilled players, very versatile two-way players. It sounds like Perfetti is a little bit more of a scorer than Rossi is, even though he can also be a good playmaker, whereas Rossi is more of a playmaker, but also a great two-way player. I feel like it's more of a matter of personal preference. I know Jim, he is real big about when prospects are playing over in Europe, because they're, as he puts it, they're in men's leagues. But if a player comes from juniors and is really good, it ultimately doesn't really matter. I feel like here it's really a matter of preference, and it's really hard to choose between the two, because it sounds like to me Perfetti compares more favorably to maybe Yzerman in his younger days, when he was known for being a goal scorer, but could also be a great playmaker. And then later on, he became, of course, a great two-way player, whereas Rossi probably compares more favorably to, you may not know who this is, PD, Peter Stasny. He was a real prominent player in the 80s. Played for the Nordiques and then later New Jersey and then the Blues. But he was a very good playmaker. He could score too. He could score you 30, maybe 40 goals, but he was known mainly as a playmaker and could rack you up 100 plus points in any given year. Very skilled all-around player from what was then Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic. So it is really just so tough. And then you throw in Drysdale as a defenseman. It's just really tough. It's almost like there's no right or wrong answer. It's really a matter of preference, really. So I guess if it was me, I would probably maybe lean towards I was going to say Perfetti, but then I'm like, thinking about Drysdale. If all three of those guys are available, it's just, it's just so tough.
Oh, for sure. Do you have anything to add, or do you want me to try to take this one real fast?
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
All right. Well, I mean, they're all really great picks, I would assume. I guess one of the main things with Perfetti that I have read on, like one of the biggest things that has been said about him is his high hockey IQ. Like I've even seen people go as far as to say his hockey IQ is potentially the highest in the draft. So that's interesting there. I mean, it's a tricky question. I guess Rossi is the guy that we've talked about him plenty of times on the show. We've brought him up multiple times on the show, but like, I guess I would take Rossi right now because I don't know. I feel like I could be mistaken, but I feel like Raymond, he's more of a goal scorer, like than he is a two-way player. Like, don't quote me on that perfectly, chat. Whoever's in here, but don't quote me on that. But like, I guess what the thing I've read on Lucas Raymond is that he's more of an offensive player. Like, there's nothing wrong with offensive players, but like, I personally like two-way players the most. Two-way players are the best players. At least that's just my opinion. Like I said this on the last show, but I'm going to say again, like, Pavel Datsuk, Yzerman, and Fedorov. No, I think everyone remember they had insane point totals, right? But they all three of those guys also won Selke trophies. And the Selke Trophy is awarded to the best defensive forward. So my point with those three players is that they got the job done on both ends of the ice, and they all were key contributors to winning Stanley Cups. I guess I would still probably I still think Rossi's probably the right pick in this particular situation, but that's just me. Like I have to dig a little deeper on Raymond. I think we've talked about Drysdale at one point. I think Drysdale would also be a great pick, honestly.
Yes, he would, forming that blue line with Seider. And again, like you were saying, I believe it's more in terms of personal preference because Rossi's a good pick, and two-way players are definitely very valuable. But I will admit, I do like goal scorers, so I probably would lean slightly more towards Perfetti for now. If I was to watch more film, I might would have a different take. But they both seem like complete players.
Yeah, for sure. All right, do y'all want to go ahead and you want to move on, or do you want to do
Let's move on.
All right, sounds good. Oh, we got EDog1234 in the building. What is up, my man? I feel like I've seen you in some roundtable chats, but I don't think I've ever seen you in an Offside Show chat. So thanks for tuning in, man. We appreciate it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and talk about. So we're talking about this upcoming draft. We haven't really talked too much about our prior draft yet, though. So let's talk about our prior draft. These were the 5 players that were selected after Seider. And I'm sorry, I might butcher some names, but after we took Seider, we took Enti Tumisto, Robert Master Simone, Albert Johansson, Alvin Grew, and Ethan Phillips. What does the future hold for these 5 players, Seth? Like in terms of their future with the Red Wings team and what they may or may not be able to contribute to this Red Wings team. What does the future hold for these 5 guys? Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Well, for these prospects, Tumisto, Robert Mastromoni, I think that's it. Albert Johansson and Alvin Gruey and Ethan Phillips, who shares the same name as the guy who played Neelix on Star Trek Voyager. Jim will probably not like this because, if he was here, he would give a much more in-depth take on each guy because he's actually seen footage of each guy, which I'll admit I haven't. So I'm going to provide a much more general take. Knowing the type of general manager Steve Eisman is, he's going to pick guys that are multidimensional and intelligent players with high hockey IQs. So from that standpoint, I think every player that he drafts has potential to be on the Red Wings because, he drafts with that mindset of drafting any player who he thinks has the potential of being a future NHL player. But the fact of the matter is that the draft is a crapshoot. Every draft in every sport is a crapshoot, but even especially more so in the NHL because these guys, when they're being drafted, most of them are 18 years old, maybe a few 19-year-olds, and you can be 20 also, but most are 18. So they're teenagers. They're still very young. They haven't really finished growing into their bodies yet. They still have some mental maturing to do. So it's not like the NFL to where these guys are already like 22, 21, 22, 23 years old, practically grown men, who've already had those few additional years of seasoning through college. In hockey, you do it through juniors in the minors. So very few players are ready to come into the league straight out of the draft. And there are also only a few that are ready to come into the league just 1 year after being drafted, like Sider, who's many expect will probably make the team this upcoming season. Now, for everyone else in the 2019 draft class, Eisman has said this in the past that for most prospects, realistically, you're looking at anywhere from 2 to 5 years before they're NHL ready. And that's even if they ever do make it to the NHL. So for this bunch, it's way too early to tell. They're going to need some more time, in the various spots. And I think maybe 2 years from now is when you'll be able to more accurately assess each guy to be able to say for sure whether this guy is going to be in the NHL or that guy is going to be the NHL. It's just the NHL is just a completely different animal from the NFL to where you draft a guy and he's going to be on the team from day one. And in some cases, start, let alone dominate. It's just a completely different beast. So that's my take on it.
All right, for sure. All right, so I'll just give some quick stats really quickly. I don't know what leagues these guys were all in. Like, I wrote a general league that they were in, but I don't have the exact league they were in. So Antti, we're just going to call him Antti because that's easier. Antti in 2019, 2020, he put in one of his Finnish leagues, he played 48 games. Antti is a defenseman. Oh wow, I have him as a defenseman. That's interesting. But I think Antti's probably the most NHL ready right now. I don't know if he'll be, and I don't know how much sooner he can get. But like in the Finnish league he was in, he had 48 games played as a defenseman, 15 goals, 34 assists, and 49 points. And it looks like he's gonna be playing at the University of Denver in the 2020-2021 season. And then Master Simone, he's a forward. He at Boston University in the 2019-2020 season, he had 34 games played, 7 goals, 10 assists, and 17 points. So around half a point a game, and he looks like he's going to be playing at the University of not University of Boston, Boston University in the 2020-2021 season. Albert Johansson, he in the SHL in the 2019-2020 season. This is as a defenseman. He had 42 games played, 2 goals, 11 assists, and 13 points. And he
That's the Swedish league. That's
yeah,
the Swedish league.
So yeah, that in that Swedish league, that was his production. He's going to be back in the SHL in the 2020-2021 season as well. And Albin Grew, we got in the 20, and this was also in a Swedish league. I don't remember if it was the SHL or not, but he had 23 games played, 6 goals, 13 assists, and 19 points. That is as a forward. That's actually not bad production at all. And it looks like he's going to be playing in the OHL in the 2020-2021 season. And then Ethan Phillips at Boston University in the 2019-2020 season. He had 31 games played, 2 goals, 8 assists, and 10 points. And he's going to be playing it. Looks like he's going to be playing at Boston University in the 2020-2021 season before we do anything with him at all. But also, so I guess this isn't based off film or anything like that. This is just purely based off the box score for now. But I guess Ante is looking pretty good, at least on the stat sheet. He's looking pretty good. Like, I don't know if that's in a men's league. I don't know if that's in like a juniors league or whatever. But like, Ante's looking pretty good right now. So I think he can one day contribute to the Red Wings. Master Simone. I don't know, but like.
Mastramoni.
Yeah.
Mastramoni.
Oh, I don't think I spelt it right. No, but like.
Or Mastramone. One or the other.
Yeah. I think he's still a work in progress. Like, honestly, after Ante, I think these other guys are probably a little bit of a work in progress. But yeah, I guess Ante is the guy. Like, I think Ante can one day see the ice as a Red Wing. I think the other guys have a little bit more development left to go for now. I'm not going to speak more on the other guys as much as I am going to speak on Ante, but the other guys look like they have a little bit more development to go. Do you have anything? You were about to say something, Seth?
Well, even though, admittedly, how one does in college doesn't always translate to the pros, even for the AHL, it does sound like Ante Tomisto is the one out of that group that has the best shot at being an NHL caliber player, an offensive defenseman. How he does his first season at Boston University, I think will tell a lot about his future going forward in the NHL. If he's able to come in and do well from the start, I think that would be a very good sign for him. It won't be a guarantee, but I think it'll be a very encouraging sign. Now, I know a lot of the gripe that a lot of people have with today's offensive defensemen is they're not good defensively, because that's the complaint about Dennis Cholofsky, why he keeps getting sent back down to Grand Rapids, even though I personally feel like you should just let the guy play and learn how to be better defensively instead of just sending him down. Geez. Coffee was not the best in his own zone, but it ultimately didn't matter. Of course, he was in a different era, a high-scoring era in the NHL. And then Phil Housley, when he was in the league, one of the better offensive defensemen who was considered atrocious in his own zone, but, it ultimately didn't matter because of his speed. And I feel like as long as you pair him with a really good defensive or two-way defenseman, that can help offset that. So it should be very interesting to see how these guys end up, especially with 3 of them going to the NCAA next season, and 2 of them teammates at Boston University. That should be very interesting and help them to develop that chemistry and continuity with each other's teammates already. So very interesting to see. But definitely I would say 2 years from now would be the earliest that you can really tell where these guys are going to go.
All right,
it might be sooner for Tomisto, maybe, but idealistically 2 years at least.
Yeah, I agree with you, but it's definitely something we're talking about. All right, Seth, I'm sorry to throw you off guard, but this is a little bit of breaking news. It's not big breaking news, but it is. I mean, it happened a couple hours ago, so I guess it is kind of breaking news. But the Lions, not the Lions, the Red Wings signed Sam Gagner to a 1-year extension. What are your thoughts on that?
I did see that real quick before we got on. I'm fine. I'm fine with that. It's the Red Wings are in a rebuild right now. Let's just put it out there so fans will understand this crystal clear. The Red Wings are in a rebuild right now, so they're going to be bad. They're going to be bad for a while. Eiserman is trying to build this team right. Through the draft, maybe add a few veteran players here and there through trades or a few free agent signings, signing them to 1 or 2 year deals. So, but mostly build through the draft and give the young players a chance to develop and get roster spots. So Sam Gagner's, signing him for a 1 year deal. That's I'm fine with that. He's a guy that will provide somewhat of a veteran presence who won't necessarily take a spot away from an emerging player. Like if Eleno makes the team, I don't see Gagner taking the spot away from him. Just a solid player to have who could be a potential trading chip at the end of the season, or at the deadline if push comes to shove to get another draft pick or prospect.
Yeah, perfectly worded. Honestly, I don't think I can word it any better than the way you just worded it, honestly. But yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. I think he is more. I don't know. I'm not in Eiserman's head. I want to be clear about that. I'm not Eiserman, so I'm not speaking for him. I'm speaking for myself as an outside perspective. But I mean, I think it's a fine move. I'm mostly indifferent about that. Like I'm indifferent about this signing, or about this extension. I think he'll add some. I think this is to help develop the younger players mostly. Like that's pretty much all he is. And then you also for trade bait or whatever. Like this signing, there's like it's very low risk. Like it doesn't hurt us in any way, shape, or form. I'm surprised by it. I'd be lying if I said that. I thought we're gonna just let him walk, but you know what? Eisman's doing a good job in this situation. He's going like, let's not lose him for nothing. Let's see if we can get something out of him if we need to get something out of him, or something like that. But yeah, it's a signing. It's not it's not the biggest deal. I mean, it's a deal because it just happened, but I can't think of the right wording, but it's a fine move. There's not really much more to it that I can say than that. But yeah, I think we're gonna do one question, I guess, real quickly. We're gonna do one last question, then we'll probably cut it off. But yeah, Seth, I know you don't like this question. No, I'll just go first because I know you don't like the way this you don't like this question. But what are your thoughts on the Stanley Cup Finals so far? I'm just gonna go first, and then I'll let you have your little rant. But this will be our last question, and then we'll probably cut it off for the day. But yeah, I think the Lightning have done an amazing job without Stamkos. I think he's played like 2 minutes of ice time so far, if I can recall correctly. And they're still up 3-1 in position to win a Stanley Cup after last year's huge disappointment in round one, getting swept by the freaking Columbus Blue Jackets of all teams. You get swept by the Blue Jackets, then you come back and then you whoop on them. And granted, the Blue Jackets did take them to 5 overtimes. So I mean, both teams wanted that series, but like what the Lightning have done is remarkable without arguably their best player and stuff like that. But like, good job to the Lightning. I think I kind of want to see him do it. I want to see. I'm pretty sure a decent amount of Eiserman's players are still on that Lightning team. So, and I want to see what he built finally come to fruition. Whether it has an asterisk or not, I don't think this will have an asterisk, or at least in my opinion, it shouldn't have an asterisk. But to see Eiserman's work finally come full circle, I'm happy for that. But yeah, Seth, let's hear what you got, man. Let's hear what you got.
I wish you would have done this question first, but I'm actually I'm actually going to take a little bit more tempered approach, slightly. I was going to say whoop-de-damn do to the Lightning, but they did choke last year in the first round, so to see them win the cup, it would be good for them, and being that Eisman did run that team for a number of years, I guess that's kind of nice. Have I watched any games in the playoffs at all? No, because I'm in the attitude and have been for some time that when my team's not in it or is out of it, I don't care who wins. Now there are some teams that I may dislike more than others. Like I was just beside myself when the Blues won it last year. And as much as I despise the Bruins, just because they're the Bruins, I oh my gosh, when the Blues won, I was like, what is going on? Because this is a team that was supposed to be the worst team, and then they have a coaching change, and they win the cup like a Disney movie. And then fans here have the nerve to be like, we should fire Blashill and change your coach. Look at the Blues. Look at the Blues. That happens once in a lifetime in a Disney movie. People, firing Blashill right now will not automatically make this team better. Oh, but we should be competitive. This is unacceptable. This is a rebuild, people. I mean, geez, how many times has Yzerman said, be patient? I mean, a plethora of times. So I guess I still did go on a bit of a rant. And, okay. Let's move on to final thoughts, please.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to give your final thoughts first, or do you want me to give my final thoughts first?
You can go ahead so I can cool down.
All right. Thanks everyone to tuning in. Thanks JMO. Thanks Mike. Thanks E-Dog. Thanks everybody. We really do appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed today. And make sure to tune into Detroit Drew's channel for Above the Rim. Also, we may or may not have some exciting things coming up on the Offside Show. But we will talk about it next week. This is a fun show today. Jim, get well soon. We love having you on, but yeah, we love having you on, Jim. Get well soon. But no, this was a good show today. At least for me, I thought this was a good, fun show. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. All right, go ahead, Seth.
Well, to provide a bit of a teaser for next week, one of the questions that we will be tackling will be concerning the Chris Chelios trade in 1999. How did you feel about that trade? How did that trade make you feel? And how did that affect the way you viewed him as a player, considering that he was coming from a rival team, the Chicago Blackhawks? So you have a whole week to think about that. And if you're too young to really remember that, do your homework. You have a whole week. You heard it from me, Seth Walker. See you next week.